This is Histories and Mysteries Uncovered. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Jessica. And on this week's episode, Ashley is going to be talking about a terrible lady named Ilse Koch. And I will be talking about a man named Buford Pusser.
Oh, that's an unfortunate last name.
Yes.
Is he a good guy or a bad guy?
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Okay, then I won't mock it too much.
Pusser or Pusser? I think it's Pusser. Um, let's
I
listen
hope
to
it's
this.
Pusser.
Oh, I gotta turn my volume up.
Buford Pusser.
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 It's
Yeah.
unfortunate for him.
So, yeah, he's a good guy.
Okay. Well, I won't make fun of his name then.
Okay.
We can make fun of my lady's name all you want because she's a horrible human.
Yeah. She's very close to her last name being Koch.
Yes, yes. Yes, she is.
So, yeah.
I heard a podcast about her years ago, and I kind of forgot about her. And then I don't know why she came back up again for me. And I was like, oh, I should do an episode on her. So I will say trigger warning because she is, we talk about the Holocaust and concentration camps. Her husband ran a concentration camp and she was very sadistic. So if any of that is too much for you, go ahead and skip forward to Jessica's story about a badass guy.
Great.
Yeah.
And thank you guys for letting us take a week off. I know we didn't give you a choice.
We were a hot mess last week.
It was awful. And I am fairly certain I have another ear infection.
Oh no.
I just don't have time to go to the clinic. So here we are.
Poor thing.
I'm pretty sure it's in both ears.
Oh
But
gosh. I haven't had a ear infection in years. You poor
I
thing.
keep getting them and I don't know why. And they don't know why. So, yeah.
This is a weird question. Are you too old to have like tubes in your ears?
I don't know.
You always hear about kids getting tubes in their ears if they get a lot of ear infections.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a great question that I don't have the answer to.
My brother got tubes in his ears when he was little, and something went wrong with the anesthesia, and he actually died for like 2 minutes or something like that. And they had to do CPR on him and like bring it back. Yeah.
Holy crap.
And he was little. He was like, I don't even, maybe 5 or 6.
Wow. How old is he now?
He's 30 something now.
Oh.
And I don't remember it, but I do vividly remember being in a hospital and seeing my parents cry.
Oh.
But that's all I remember.
Yeah. That's crazy.
I know.
Okay. So you come into my territory and you're telling an awful story.
Yes.
So
apparently we're not allowed to switch.
Apparently.
There's actually a book written about this couple as well. You can buy it on Amazon. I almost bought it to read it, but I don't know how into detail I really want to know about like what she did.
Also, to further stall, I was just talking about this with Kyle downstairs because we're going to a birthday party on the weekend for one of Evie's friends who is a little bit older. So they're doing a movie birthday party, like the movie theater, right?
Oh, okay.
And it's Kung Fu Panda 4.
Cute.
And Evie's never seen the Kung Fu Panda movies. So we were like, okay, well, we should try and see if she can at least watch the first one and make sure she enjoys it.
Yeah.
To kind of prep her, because if she watches a movie she doesn't know about or like, then she's a disaster. So we're trying to prep her, essentially.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
I haven't seen the fourth one, but yeah, I've seen the first. I love Kung Fu Panda. Yeah.
So really putting myself out there. Tai Lung, he's hot.
Isn't he an animal? Which animal is he?
He's the bad guy. He's like the bad white tiger guy.
Oh no. Although I can't really say anything because do you remember that old show Gargoyles?
No.
There's my 90s kids out there know exactly what I'm talking about. They can picture the gargoyle in their head right now and they know he was hot.
Well, I think it's just the fact that I also really love Ian McShane and I
Uh-huh.
love his voice. And then he's just a badass tiger. I don't know, man. It's just hot. It's weird. And Kyle's like, did I hear that right?
And you're like, yes.
Like, no, I'm not gonna repeat that. I'm gonna air it on the podcast.
And then you did.
Yeah.
That's
But
really funny.
honestly, and there was like that trend going on Facebook or not Facebook, but TikTok, where it was like, I'm not attracted to a fictional like animated character. And then people were.
Well, you should have seen all the thirst traps for Astarion from Baldur's Gate. Holy
Oh my
crap.
God, yes.
So many. And like,
So many.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. And
Yeah.
I really like the voice actor too, Neil Newborn or
Oh,
Newbon.
he's
Newbon.
sexy.
He is. And he's
He's
such like a
sexy.
nerdy, like alt kind of, I
Yeah.
really enjoy him. And he's really sweet. It seems anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
All right. Ilse Koch, aka the bitch of Buchenwald or the witch of Buchenwald. She had a very normal childhood. She was born in Dresden, Germany on September 22nd, 1906, and by all accounts was a happy little girl. Everybody said she was very polite, she was happy, she was just a sweet little girl. At the age of 15, she went to accounting school, which was one of the few jobs women of the time could have. She quickly got a job as a bookkeeper and came into adulthood as Germany was trying to rebuild after World War I, and right when the world was hitting the Great Depression. It hit Germany hard, just like it did in America, and unemployment soared. People wanted someone to blame and someone to save them, and in comes Adolf Hitler. Hitler promised,
dick.
yeah, Hitler promised a whole bunch of things and gave people someone to blame. He also promised to abolish the Treaty of Versailles, which was the treaty to end World War I. And this treaty demilitarized part of Germany and required massive reparations that Germany just couldn't afford at the time. So it was a really unpopular treaty in Germany. And so here comes Hitler saying, oh, yeah, I'm going to abolish it. Sounds a lot like someone else I know in politics. So, although I'm not one to compare Trump to Hitler, because obviously Hitler is leaps and bounds worse, but just the way that they came into power is very similar. And, making these empty promises, giving people, someone to blame. It's very similar in that aspect. So for Ilse, this looked great. And in 1932, she joined the Nazi Party. Here is where she met her husband, Karl Otto Koch, and the two married in 1936. He was 9 years older than her, but she was 30 and he was 39, so it's fine. It's not like, she was in her teens and he was older, which happened a lot back in the day.
Mm-hmm. That's a while. She's older when she met her husband. That's crazy.
Yeah. And they lived in a city, Sachsenhausen. Oh no, I'm sorry. They lived at Sachsenhausen concentration camp, where Karl Otto was the commandant. But in 1937, the couple moved so that Karl could command a new, great concentration camp called Buchenwald. Like all concentration camps, Buchenwald was horrific. It was one of the first and one of the largest concentration camps in German borders. They had all types of victims placed in this camp: Jewish people, Polish people, other Slavic people, mentally ill, physically disabled, Romani people, Freemasons, political prisoners, prisoners of war, just everyone. This camp was originally designed to hold 8,000 prisoners, and it was supposed to be a really great profit to the Germans. It was by these clay deposits, and they could take the prisoner labor to make bricks out of this clay area. So they would get a lot of money from that. So this camp was actually designed for people to live longer there. It wasn't necessarily like a death camp where you go and you die pretty quickly. They wanted them to live longer to get the maximum amount of work out of them. The conditions were harsh, and the majority of the 56,545 human lives that were murdered here were killed due to illness.
That's insanity.
Isn't that so many?
It's horrific. I can't.
They were starved. They were forced to work horribly grueling labor, and many were literally worked to death, which was a Nazi extermination policy through labor. That was their like policy, was extermination through labor. There was human experimentation, shootings, hangings, gas chamber. And aside from the witch or bitch of Buchenwald, these poor people also had the hangman of Buchenwald. He ordered 2 Austrian priests to be crucified upside down and would hang prisoners by their wrists that were tied behind their backs.
Oh,
He did this in what was known as the Singing Forest, and it was so called that because of the screams coming from the forest.
are you kidding?
No. So the people in this camp had him to deal with and Ilse. There were 729 prisoners of camp that were experimented on. 154 of them died due to these experiments. And one of the biggest experiments at this camp was a trial for epidemic typhus vaccine. They were also trying to figure out the fatal dosing of a certain poison and tested it on 4 Soviet prisoners of war. When they didn't die, they were strangled to death and then dissected. They also wanted to test how effective bombs were for wounds from bombs that are like designed to start fires after they explode. So they would inflict extremely severe white phosphorus burns on prisoners of the camp. And when one of the things is, at the end of all of this, a lot of people who worked in these concentration camps were put up on trial for war crimes. And the doctor that did this experiment was put up, and he said at the trial, when challenged at trial over the nature of his testing, and particularly over the fact that testing was designed in some cases to cause death and only to measure the time which elapsed until death was caused, one Nazi doctor's defense was that although he was a doctor, he was a legally appointed executioner.
So what does that mean? Like, did he get off? Did he get punished?
I'm not sure about that, doctor. I didn't look into that. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
But so all of this was happening at this camp. And Ilse was so awful that she stood out from this. Like people remembered her. I mean, to this day, we know her name. And she was amongst all that. So to stand out, anywho. When Ilse arrived at camp, she took money stolen from prisoners, about $62,500 or $1.3 million in today's money.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And then used the prisoners' labor to build an indoor sports arena where she could ride her horses because, riding them not in a sports arena just wasn't an option.
Oh my God. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, and obviously some of the workers died while building this sports arena for her.
Yeah, because you really need your horse at
Mm-hmm.
a concentration camp.
Mm-hmm.
Lady, you're on crack.
She would taunt the prisoners. So she would ride. She would take her horse and she would ride it through the camp, and then she would taunt the prisoners until they looked at her, and then she would whip them. Not only that, but she would ride through camp and look for prisoners with distinctive tattoos. I also heard one source say that she would go through camp and require each man to strip down naked so she could examine them, looking for tattoos. When she found them, one that she liked, she would have the prisoner skinned. Now, I heard two cases where she skinned them alive and then killed them. I heard another one where they died and then skinned them and would put them on display in her home.
Really?
Yep. She
Like, buy
had
art, lady.
she had prisoner skin for lampshades, prisoner skin for photo albums, for gloves, for knife sheaths. And surprisingly, she wasn't the only woman to do this. There was another woman, and I can't remember her name. I just read it in passing that had a handbag made of prisoner skin that she was like super proud of and like showing it off.
So the original Ed Gein's.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But we don't hear about them.
Yeah. We even had, I even heard that she used prisoners' thumbs for light switches in her home. She also would collect prisoners' organs and display them in her home. Some believe that the human skin items were not Ilse's, but actually Dr. Eric Wagner, who did write a dissertation while working at Buchenwald and about the link between habitual criminals and tattoos. But other rumors say that she was also interested in that and actually approached him to study that and said, hey, you should study this. Obviously, that's not something we will ever know. They did find these items in her home when they arrested her, but they couldn't link it directly to her. So, for a couple of reasons. One, there wasn't a lot of scientific evidence collecting, stuff back then. So that's one. And two, she claimed that they were goat skin, not human skin, excuse me. And there was really no way back then to figure that out.
So it clearly wasn't like super distinctive.
Mm-mm. So the rest of this stuff I read in a few places, but also I read differing kind of stories and differing extremes of it. So kind of take it with a grain of salt, I guess. She was known to be a sexual deviant. I saw several accounts where she would walk around camp and dress like really skimpy, like super short skirts, like super tight shirts. And if a prisoner looked at her, she would have him shot.
She's married, right?
Oh, yeah, we'll get into that.
I was gonna say, so what does her husband think of this?
Well, there is some rumors that they had an open marriage and that he may have been gay.
Okay.
But I saw other things that said that she just walked around camp and if anybody looked at her, they'd get shot. So I don't know. I don't think that these poor men that were literally starving and being worked to death would be like that intrigued by this woman wearing skimpy clothes. So I
Well,
don't know.
especially if she's as horrible as they're saying she is.
Exactly.
Like, who would want to look at her?
Yeah. So it was also said that she would make them, and I did see this in a couple of different places, that she would make them perform sexual acts on each other for her amusement. And one source even said that she would have them do that until they died of exhaustion because they were already in a fragile state. So again, I don't know if it went to that extreme or if it didn't. I'm unsure. This is what one of the sources I read said, but I didn't see it anywhere else. I did see that she had them have sex for her amusement. So I did see that one, but having them do it till they died, I only read that one place. So again, it is also said, and this one I did read in several places, that she would host several orgies at her house for the other SS soldiers and their wives. The horror inflicted by the Kochs lasted for 6 years until on August 24th, 1943, they were arrested by the Nazis for embezzlement and murder of prisoners, which you're thinking, that's weird because all concentration camps murdered prisoners.
Yeah.
So apparently the issue was that all punishments had to be cleared to the Nazis' main office, and Ilse and Karl were not doing that.
Are you?
So,
are
so it wasn't the murder that made the Nazis mad, but the fact that they were doing it without permission.
Are you kidding me?
No. Plus, they were embezzling money that was supposed to go to the Nazi party, they were keeping for themselves. And I think that's probably the real reason why they got arrested.
Oh my god.
They also, there was also a rumor that Karl was arrested because he had ordered the execution of an orderly because the orderly diagnosed him with syphilis and he didn't want that getting out. One, he didn't want people to know he had syphilis, and two, his wife didn't have syphilis. So he didn't want that getting out.
But if it's an open marriage, why would that make any, like, why would that matter?
Exactly. So I don't know. That was a rumor. But I don't know if it was well known that it was an open marriage and maybe that was something he didn't want people to know. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
But okay, where's my side? There it is. And yeah, I have that in there. But from all accounts, their marriage was pretty open. So, and obviously, you don't steal from the Nazis. So they're pissed about that. Karl was ordered to be executed for this. And he was hanged 1 week before the liberation of Buchenwald.
Holy crap.
Yeah, they took that very seriously. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Ilse was set free due to lack of evidence, but at this point, she had spent 16 months in the Gestapo prison before she was released. Once she was released, she moved into an apartment with her 2 children in Ludwigsburg, which after this, she probably thought she was home free, living in this nice little city with her kids, all that behind her, just doing her thing until one of the former inmates of Buchenwald saw her on the street in Ludwigsburg and recognized her and went to the authorities because at this point there was the American occupation of Germany and they were arresting Nazis for war crimes.
Oh.
So this prisoner saw her and was like, that's the fucking bitch from Buchenwald.
Oh my god.
And went to authorities and bitch got arrested.
Amazing.
So she was arrested on June 30th, 1945. She stood trial with 30 other people that worked in Buchenwald. The prosecution, so this was an army court, so it wasn't like a regular court. It was for war crimes. So the prosecution didn't have to show that anyone had committed any specific acts of violence, but that they had in some way aided and abetted the murderous criminal enterprise of Buchenwald. Okay. So that's pretty easy to do.
Yeah.
And all 31 of them were found guilty. And Ilse was sentenced to life in prison.
Nice. So why did her husband get hanged, but she got life in prison?
Well, so remember, her husband got hanged from the Nazis.
Oh.
And
Yeah, that's true.
Ilse went through the US Army trial.
That's fair. Okay.
But before her sentence was carried out, it had to go through two different levels of review. Again, because this was, I don't know how the war crime trials worked.
Yeah.
And both reviews said that they didn't think there was enough evidence to convict her.
Are you kidding me?
And they said, quote, in spite of the extravagant statements made in the newspapers, the record contains little convincing evidence against the accused. In regards to the widely publicized charges that she ordered inmates killed for their tattoo skin, the record is especially silent. They said that the testimony against her was based on presumption and of doubtful veracity, nor is there any evidence in this record of any kind that she at any time ever ordered any article made of human skin.
Makes me mad.
The War Crimes Review Board reviewed the case and said, I can't see anything on which we honestly can hold the accused. There is no question but that she was tried in the newspapers and suffered both before and during her trial from her unique position as the only woman at the camp, and said that her sentence was excessive and reduced it to 4 years.
Oh my God.
And so on June 8th, 1948, they said there is no convincing evidence that she had selected inmates for extermination in order to secure tattooed skins, or that she possessed any articles made of human skin. But they did leave it open that she could be tried under West German law. He said, I hold no sympathy for Ilse Koch. She was a woman of depraved character and ill repute. She had done many things reprehensible and punishable, undoubtedly, under German law. We were not trying her for those things. We were trying her as a war criminal on specific charges. What do you think of that?
I don't know. Repeat it. I was listening. I just need to reprocess.
So this is okay. Let me reprocess. Let me retell you what the prosecution's burden was. So the prosecution the prosecution didn't have to show that anyone had committed specific acts of violence, but that they had in some way aided and abetted the murderous criminal enterprise of Buford.
Huh.
And they're saying basically that there's no evidence.
Even though people saw her and recognized her.
Yes.
And could 100% point at her to being the bad guy.
Well, and that's what they're saying is like, yes, she was there, obviously, but there's no evidence that she actually had tattoo skin. There's no evidence that she, had anybody executed, which is probably true, because if they were doing it without getting the Nazi approval, right, there's probably no record of her being like, oh yeah, go kill this person, or oh yeah, give me that tattoo skin. Like there's not going to be a record of that.
I know, but
that doesn't mean like she still aided and abetted. Like
exactly. And people still saw her.
Exactly. So now are you saying that these prisoners that survived this horrible experience are just making up shit?
Honestly, like, what did they expect?
Yeah. So obviously people were outraged. And years later, the judge stood by his decision, saying there was absolutely no evidence in the trial transcript other than she was a rather loathsome creature that would support the death sentence. I suppose I received more abuse for that than for anything else I did in Germany. Some reporter had called her the bitch of Buchenwald and had written that she had lampshades made of human skin in her house. And that was introduced in court, where it was absolutely proven that the lamps shades were made out of goat skin. In addition to that, her crimes were primarily against the German people. They were not war crimes against American or Allied prisoners. Later, she was tried by a German court for her crimes, and they had clear jurisdiction. We did not.
I hate that.
I do too. People protested everywhere. Some would bring lampshades to the protest and said that General Clay, the judge that reduced her sentence, should be removed from command. It got so bad that a group of U.S. senators decided to investigate the sentence reduction. They held hearings where they heard testimony from people who originally testified at her trial. And the investigation recommended that she be tried again, this time not by the U.S. Army, but by the newly independent West Germany. So the West German judiciary, that's a hard word.
Judiciary.
Yes.
Yep.
Put Ilse up for another trial for crimes against German nationals, which the original U.S. Army court could not charge her with. She ended up being charged with 25 misdemeanor counts of grievous bodily harm, incitement to grievous bodily harm in a number of cases no longer determinable, 65 counts of incitement to attempt murder, and 25 counts of incitement to murder. The trial lasted for 7 weeks, and 250 witnesses were heard. Ilse collapsed in court at one point in late December 1950. Oh no, so sad. And although, I'm just going to skip right over that.
Oh, man.
And although at least 4 witnesses claimed that they had seen Ilse choose tattooed prisoners who were then killed, or had seen her involved in the process of making human skin lampshades from tattooed skin, that charge was dropped because they had no way to prove that the lampshades were indeed human skin and not just goat skin as they had claimed. Now, I meant to mention this earlier. I did see one source that said she realized like how much she enjoyed these human skin things and got some of the prisoners to make more human skin things and sent them out as Christmas gifts to other SS soldiers.
Oh, are you kidding me?
No.
Oh,
now,
that's
again,
disgusting.
I did only hear that in one source, but that is something that I read.
Yeah. Also, good on West Germany.
Right?
For doing this trial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But on January 15th, 1951, the court passed down its 111-page decision. Ilse was found and convicted of 7 misdemeanor counts of incitement to grievously bodily harm.
Fuck yeah.
Grievous bodily harm. 1 count of incitement to attempt murder and 1 count of incitement to murder. She was sentenced to life in prison.
Oh, amazing.
The court said that she was particularly egregious because she consciously suppressed any feeling of compassion and pity she had as a woman, but instead gave free rein to her pursuit of power and prestige, her arrogance and her selfishness, and stubborn and irresponsible denial, and the incapacity for even the slightest admission of guilt. So I kind of feel like that right there is the reason why she got off so many times until now, because she was a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of like with the whole Lizzie Borden thing, like whether you think she did it or not, a lot of people think that, you know, she got off because they didn't think a woman would ever do something like that.
Yeah.
And I think that plays in here.
Yeah, like how could a woman be capable of such horrible things?
Mm-hmm.
So,
because just that line, consciously suppressed any feeling of compassion and pity she had as a woman.
Yeah.
So not that I feel bad for her in any way, but you know. Ilse tried to appeal and petition and protest, but none of it worked, and that bitch's sentence remained. So apparently while waiting that very first trial in Germany, I'm sorry, not the first one, the second one with the US Army war crimes. She was awaiting trial with other German war criminals who were also awaiting trial. And she got a little naughty with one of them, and she conceived a son. And she gave birth while in prison. Her baby was immediately taken away.
Good.
And this kid never learned who his mom was until he was a teenager.
Oh, jeez.
And once he became a teenager, he did start corresponding and visiting his mom in about, I think, 1966. But as time went on, Ilse's mind was going, and she became paranoid that the concentration camp survivors would attack her in her cell, which I think is such a
Poetic justice.
Yes. Yes. And on September 1st, 1967, at the age of 60, Ilse hanged herself using her bed sheets.
Oh, shit.
On the wall of her cell, she wrote to her son, "There is no other way. Death for me is a release."
It's an easy release.
After this, apparently her son tried to, like, what's it like, rehab her reputation,
Yeah.
but nobody was having it.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. But I just thought that was such poetic justice, that like that was coming back to haunt her at the end of her life.
Yeah, she's probably seeing them.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super interesting. This is a great place to say this too. So for those of you who are listening, if you've ever heard of the podcast My Skeptical Sister, it's where one sister is a believer and one sister is skeptical. So like me and Jessica. And we're actually going to do a crossover episode with them. And Jessica and Aaron are the believers, and me and Megan are the skeptics. And so that should be a really fun crossover. I'm very excited for that.
Ooh.
But it just made me think of that because, you know, she probably did see them, but I actually was like, yes, I believe that in this instance. Yes.
Yeah, totally. Well,
Yeah.
100%. If you're getting that old, you're going to start having hallucinations.
And not only that, but like, I feel like if you kill someone in that horrible, horrible way,
yeah,
when you're kind of knocking on death's door, they may come back to you.
Oh, they're waiting for her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
but hopefully, like they're in heaven, you know, and she goes to hell. But you know,
well, I honestly, and I was thinking the exact same thing as I was saying it, but
I also like the thought of they're waiting for her.
well, and the reason I say that is not because I don't think they deserve to go to heaven. It's because they have unfinished business.
Oh, so they haven't crossed over yet.
Yeah, they've died very tragic.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like the idea. I like the idea of them being in heaven
and
then coming back down for a visit.
Okay.
To get her.
Yeah.
And then going back.
No, have you seen the show Ghosts?
I haven't, but I think I'd really like it.
Okay, it's so funny. So the ghosts in the house, if they get like they call passing over to the other side, I think they said I haven't watched it in a year, but I think they said sucked off.
It what?
They get sucked off.
I love that. That's hilarious.
I'm pretty sure that's the term they use, is getting sucked off or sucked up or something.
I really hope it's sucked off. That's hilarious.
It's so funny. Because it's just like you look at them and it's like, what? Is that what you just said? So it's a good show. I suggest watching it. The BBC, like I don't know why I just said BBC version, but the British version I think is the original.
Oh, okay.
And it's so funny. It's so much better than the American one.
Okay.
But it's great.
I'll have to watch it. Yeah, I think I would really I've seen like previews for it and stuff, and I think I'd like it.
Yeah. It's a good show. It's funny.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right. Well, let's hear a better story about, although mine was a nice poetic justice at the end, but I want to hear about
very nice in the end.
kick-ass dude.
So I'm actually like a little disappointed because I thought I was going to be getting more of a revenge story here.
Uh-huh.
And that's kind of what the first article I read promised. So that's why I was like super into this story. And I was
Hmm.
like, oh, fuck yeah, he gets revenge on
Yeah.
his, you know? And no, it's not.
Oh.
I was already three-quarters of the way done. So
So you just got to keep going. Yeah.
yeah. It's still really good. And he's still like a freaking badass, but
Okay.
it just
Cool. Cool. Cool.
wasn't the ending I was hoping for.
Gotcha.
So I used wlocks.com, all that's interesting, and CBS News and some other things. Buford Pusser. On December 2nd, 1937, in McNairy County, Tennessee, Buford was born. He was big and tough even as a small child, and he was the son of Adamsville, Tennessee police chief Carl Pusser, and Helen Pusser. He was a born athlete who developed into a 6'6" man. Okay.
So no one was mocking him about his last name. He's a big boy.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. He participated in both the high school football and the basketball teams. You're big, you're tall. Why the heck not?
Yeah, exactly.
Later, because of his asthma, he enlisted in the United States Marines, but he was quickly released.
Oh.
Pusser eventually relocated to Chicago in 1957 and became involved in the city's professional wrestling scene.
Oh
So
my
this
gosh.
guy is fucking packed.
So, funny story.
Oh, okay.
One of my friends in Charleston, I will not name her because of this story, but she, for a little bit, dated a professional wrestler.
Okay.
Like
What's with
the,
the quotes? Like, was he like Nacho Libre?
yeah, kind of like the, like, not like actual wrestling, like the WWE wrestling is what he did.
Yeah.
And he was probably one of the most ridiculous people I've ever seen. He was also a douchebag, but I could not take this man seriously for the life of me. I couldn't. I just he had like a whole alter ego that he
Ah,
would play, and he wore like masks, and it was just ridiculous.
man, you've lived a life. He
Oh,
became known, rather than your guy, as Buford the Bull due to his enormous stature and similarly enormous strength. But he discovered more in Chicago than just a new sense of identity. There, he got to know Pauline Mullins, the beautiful lady that he would eventually marry.
aw.
She's actually so pretty.
Can you imagine your husband is 6'6"
Fuck no.
and like huge like that? Like you wouldn't have to worry about being anywhere.
No. But look up a picture of her because she's really pretty.
Okay, what was her name again?
Pauline Mullins or Pusser.
Pauline
Pusser, probably.
Mullins Pusser. Aw, she was pretty.
Yeah, she was
Very
super
like
pretty.
old Hollywood pretty.
Yes.
Oh, there
Yeah.
he is. Oh, what's with that hair? He has, okay, for the listeners, let me describe the hair. It's looks like someone took a plate and put it on the top of, no, not a plate, like a piece of wood and put it on the top of his head and then cut around it. It's very flat on the top.
Yeah.
It goes up. It's kind of like Frankensteinish,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah.
Oh, and it looks like he had that haircut for quite a while. Uh huh. Uh huh. Oh, jeez. She should have gotten him a different haircut. She was so pretty.
She was very pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was hired as a die cutter at the Union Paper Bag Company, and Dwana Itoya Pusser was born.
Oh.
Yeah. They soon went back to Buford's hometown of Adamsville, Tennessee, where he was sworn in as the state's youngest sheriff ever.
Aw.
Yeah, this guy's just kind of rocking it. Upon his return to Adamsville, Buford, despite his young age at 25, demonstrated his strength and no-nonsense nature by winning the positions of chief of police and constable, which he held for around 2 years
Oh.
at 25.
That's awesome.
Yeah. However, James Dickey, the sheriff of McNairy County, was killed in an automobile accident in 1964. On August 1st, Dickey was returning to the station after, in a weird foreshadowing, he was investigating another motor vehicle accident.
That is ironic.
Yeah. And it's ironic and foreshadows the ending of our story, too. Dickey, who was a World War II veteran of the United States Army, was traveling close to the border between Mississippi and Tennessee when his car's front right tire unexpectedly burst. He lost control of his vehicle, skidded off the pavement, plummeted down a slope, and collided with a bunch of trees.
That is something that I think about probably on a regular basis.
Yeah.
My like wheel exploding and like not being able to control the car.
I
That's horrifying.
always said that if I were to die, it'd be in a fiery car accident.
Oh, I think I'm for sure going to get cancer.
Oh, yeah?
I don't know why. That's just how I think I'm going to go.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how we went in a past life.
Maybe.
Maybe. I always think I'm gonna get decapitated, which I know doesn't happen very often, but
Very rare.
no, but decapitated in a motor vehicle accident.
Oh, oh, did you ever see that movie Heredity? Or yeah.
Yeah, Hereditary?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shocking.
Yeah. Awful.
Heredity. That's not a word.
No, it's not.
I used to be a biology teacher. This is sad.
Oh, mom brain. Buford was quickly chosen to succeed Dickey, and he was only 27 years old.
Wow. That's a
Yeah.
lot of pressure to put on someone's shoulders like that young.
Yeah, especially because his brain has only been fully developed for 2 years.
Good point.
And he made history as the youngest sheriff in the state.
Wow.
Yeah. He immediately pushed himself in his new position, focusing on taking down the state line mob and the Dixie Mafia, two organized criminal gangs who operated along the Tennessee-Mississippi border and profited greatly from the illegal moonshine trade. These organizations also engaged in prostitution, robberies, murder, and illicit gambling. Buford faced opposition from these groups, but he appeared unmoved by it. The New York Times said that Buford personally used a pickaxe to remove illicit gambling equipment. Furthermore, he was essentially the only law enforcement officer in the area at the time concentrating on organized crime. Thus, there was never any doubt as to who was responsible for these rogue punishments. Let's take a fucking pickaxe, go pow.
I would not want a 6'6" man coming at me with a pick. I'd be like, you can
No.
destroy whatever you want, sir.
Yeah. And I don't know if I touch on it at all, but there is a movie that was made about him.
Oh.
I think it's called Walking Tall or something.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So pretty cool. Buford was stabbed 7 times in November 1964, not long after his election, by gang members who clearly thought that he posed a threat. Although he survived, there were numerous other attempts on his life. He was shot at 8 times while leading an incredible campaign against criminal organizations, closing down 87 whiskey stills in 1965 alone.
Wow. Look at him go.
Yeah. He also repelled physical attacks, reportedly fending off 6 men at once, sending 3 to the hospital and 3 to jail. And he even had a car run him over.
Oh my gosh.
Uh, this man is not lucky.
Oh.
However, in August 1967, he saw the most disastrous attempt on his life unfold right in front of him. On August 12th, 1967, at around 4:30 a.m., Buford Pusser received a call alerting him to a disturbance close to the state border. His wife, Pauline, insisted on going with her husband when he looked into the report because, like Ashley said, she's gonna be safe. He's a big guy. So they obviously said, like, fuck yeah, we're gonna go look at this shit. And they sped off in their vehicle. However, as we can all kind of imagine, it did not go as planned. A vehicle unexpectedly came up next to them as they got closer to New Hope Road, and their car was attacked by a flurry of bullets. Buford had been spared by the first gunfire, but Pauline was shot in the head.
Oh my gosh.
With nowhere to go, Buford raced down the street in an attempt to elude his assailants. He attempted to tend to Pauline's wounds when he thought he had escaped them, but the second vehicle soon resurfaced again, and the pair were once more the target of gunfire. Pauline's head took another blow,
Oh my.
and this time Buford's jaw was shot off by
Oh
his
my god.
assailants.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Following a call from Sheriff Pusser over the radio, the Selmer police chief located him and Pauline on US 45 just north of the Tennessee-Mississippi state line.
I don't, and I'm not in any way blaming them at all in any way, but I wonder why she went with him on that one.
Well,
Like,
it's
what are the
probably
odds?
because, like, I wouldn't want my husband going out alone at 4:30 in the morning if his job was pretty scary.
Yeah, but I feel like this probably wasn't the first time that he had to do that.
I know, and it probably wasn't the first time that she went out with him.
Oh, yeah, you're probably right. I didn't even think about that. Yeah,
They're
I was
hearing
just like,
about one
why
time.
this time would she have gone? But yeah, yeah, you're right. Okay.
It probably wasn't the first time.
I shall shut up.
Okay. Uh, You made me lose my spot. The sheriff was seated at the wheel while his wife laid on the seat with her head resting in his lap. The Tennessean reported that investigators discovered 14 expended 30 caliber rounds on the road where Pusser claimed the shooting happened, which is around 3 miles from the state line. 11 of those hits of the 14 bullets were on their car.
Wow.
So I have a little news clipping that I'm just going to read straight off of about this. It's just the little preview, but I thought that it was a really good way to describe it.
Gotcha.
So, Selmer McNary County Sheriff Buford Pusser said from his Memphis hospital bed yesterday he did not recognize the men who riddled his car with 30 caliber carbine slugs early Saturday, killing his pretty wife, Pauline. But investigators, including two men from the Tennessee Bureau of Criminal Identification, continue to question people, keeping in mind the possibility the ambush was an underworld vendetta. From what has happened in the past, there are certain key suspects, said a TBI agent. And then they just went on to describe that he was an ex-wrestler and stuff. And then he declared war on bootlegging. And yeah, so.
Yeah, I would think it's a vendetta, especially because it was planned. Like it was called in
Uh,
and he
and it
went
was
there and it was well organized.
and it was right at the borderline, which is what the gangs
Yeah.
where the gangs are.
Yeah.
Yeah, are right on that state line. It became evident after first responders helped the Pussers that Pauline could not be saved, and her husband was likely to suffer the same fate. So that's how bad his injury was. Although, after spending 18 days in the hospital and undergoing numerous facial repair procedures, Buford Pusser made a full recovery.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah, and if you look at pictures of him, it doesn't even look.
I was just about to look up Buford Pusser
Yeah,
post shooting.
and you can't really tell, like, unless they put makeup on him. I don't know, but he looked good to me.
Oh, okay. I mean, you can tell, but it's not bad.
Yeah, for
They did
back
a really
then.
good job. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, despite the fact that he survived, he
Yeah.
still had lots of emotional trauma for the
Oh,
rest of
I
his life.
bet. Oh my gosh.
He swiftly resolved to exact revenge on the people who killed his wife, but the article said he didn't know. So I don't know if that was a ploy so that nobody suspected what came next,
Okay.
or if that was the truth and this was just all a bunch of hullabaloo. But he was able to identify the four suspected people after being allowed to leave the hospital. He famously named Dixie Mafia boss Kirksey McCord Nix Jr. as the mastermind behind the deadly ambush. Buford was never able to put Nix or any of the others on trial, even though in 1972, Nix was given a life term for the murder of grocery executive Frank Corso in a different case. And Nix is still incarcerated today, as of December 2023. I couldn't find anything more recent. After being accused of ordering two additional killings while he was in prison.
Just give it up, man.
Yeah. So thankfully, this guy is getting his dues. He's paying his dues.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nevertheless, Buford became a folk hero by taking a more severe stance against crime than he ever had before. Like
Yeah, I bet.
this man fucking snapped. So, and the three others who had murdered his wife eventually ended up on the other end of the stick. Which is a funny joke because he used it bad, I think.
Um,
In 1969, Carl Douglas Towhead White, one of the hitmen on trial, was discovered shot to death in Mississippi. Though never verified, rumors soon spread that Buford had personally hired a hitman to murder White. Shortly after, in 1970, George McGann and Gary McDaniel, the final two suspected murderers, were discovered shot dead in Texas. Once more, There is never any solid evidence to refute the widespread belief that Buford planned their assassinations. He became a highly respected person in Tennessee and beyond as a result of his supposed retaliation for his wife's death and his nearly solo battle against organized crime in the area of his hometown. Buford was a legend, Tina Jarrell, the curator of the Buford Pusser Home and Museum, explained to the local station. He was fighting against the mob, the state line mob, and they were very evil. They
Why are
were.
you reading it like that?
I just figured that she'd have some like sass and oomph and pizzazz, you know?
Okay.
So I don't know. But they were very evil, mean people. And he stood up to them and wouldn't take a bribe like everyone else had in the past. And he just really made an impact on society. Man, I like him. I love Buford Pusser. Man, this man's amazing. I really hope that he did all that shit.
I hope he did too.
Yeah.
Sometimes a
Sadly.
little vigilante justice isn't horrible,
Exactly.
but also like don't go killing people.
Exactly. Sadly, Buford's life ended abruptly on August 21st, 1974, around 7 years after his wife had passed away,
Oh.
when he unexpectedly lost control of his Corvette close to Adamsville. After then, the car struck an embankment and caught fire, ending in a manner uncannily identical to that of the sheriff who had come before him.
That's creepy.
Isn't that
That whole police
creepy?
department should probably just stay away from cars.
Yeah. Isn't that like
Let's go back to riding
horrifying?
horses.
Yeah. Don't be sheriff
That's crazy.
or chief of police, whatever the fucking is. When he died, he was only 36 years old.
Oh,
Yeah.
younger
Sad.
than me.
Older than me.
Shut up.
Younger than Kyle.
Old man.
Many of Buford's loved ones, including his daughter, think he was murdered, even though the crash was officially ruled an accident.
Oh, interesting.
Because, like I said earlier, Nix had the ability to order 2 murders from jail.
Yeah.
I'm fairly sure that he could hire somebody to
Yeah.
cut a line or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I think he was murdered. These allegations have never been looked into. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
unresolved everything
Yeah.
around his death. We're never going to know what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even if it was looked into, that would be hard to prove. I mean, like nowadays, yeah, you could probably
Yeah.
prove that by looking at like skid marks and other things like that.
Yeah.
But back then, I don't know that they would have been able to prove that.
Gosh, no. I mean, they should have looked at the car and been like, oh, was the line snipped? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that would, yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking more of like if they ran him off the road.
Oh, yeah. I immediately went to like cut line, you know,
That makes
because
sense.
he lost control. So,
Mhm.
but I guess if nobody was around, they wouldn't know if he just lost
Yeah.
control or if somebody was around him
Yeah.
or he could have had a seizure.
Yeah. There's a lot of things.
I don't think he had a brain injury, but like I'm sure something could have
Yeah.
happened
Yeah.
after all that time.
Yeah.
Anyways. And it was funny because, well, it's not funny, but it was interesting is the word I wanted to use. That the day he passed away, he had just agreed to play himself in the movie.
Oh,
Yeah, he was finally like, "Yep, I'll be in it," and then he died that day.
oh.
Yeah. So one thing is for certain. Tennessee will never forget the remarkable impact this folk hero made on the state and his life story. And in an article dated February 9th, 2024, people,
Ooh, fresh, new.
over 50 years after she was shot and killed, the body of Pauline Pusser was exhumed by the authorities.
Why?
Authorities said that agents got a fresh tip, which prompted the surprise action.
What was the
Ac-
tip?
I don't know.
Oh,
I'm going to learn with you.
okay.
According to a TBI statement, the organization got a fresh tip that showed investigators that Pauline Pusser's remains had never been autopsied. Uh-huh, uh-huh. Which, I mean, why
Yeah,
would you if you know what caused her death?
yeah.
But I don't know if if I'm making this up, I'm sorry, but I'm fairly certain I heard this somewhere that if it's a tragic or unexpected death, you
Mhm.
have to automatically autopsy.
But, and I get that for sure. But why, after 50 years, would you exhume a body just because an autopsy wasn't done? You know what I mean?
Right? Especially because if other people are probably already in jail or dead by now.
Yeah. So it's got to be something else.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Quote, with the support of Pauline's family and in consultation with 25th Judicial District Attorney General Mark Davidson, TBI requested the exhumation in an attempt to answer critical questions and provide crucial information that may assist in identifying the person or persons responsible for her death.
So did Buford never tell them, even though he knew?
Well, he said that it was like I don't know, he said he didn't know who they were, but then he said that he found out. So I don't know.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But I mean, if we have this information, I'm sure the TBI have this information. So,
Yeah. Yeah,
you
for
know,
sure.
it just it doesn't make sense. I don't know how you're supposed to find a
Yeah.
bad person from something that happened at a distance.
Yeah. Like the only thing you could tell is the angle, maybe that she was shot and which
Uh-huh.
one was the death blow, but I don't know what
Maybe they're
else you would get
hoping
from that.
Maybe they're hoping that like a casing is still in her somewhere
Maybe.
and they want to try and see if there's like fingerprints or
There's got to be something pretty major for the family to allow them to do that. You know what I
yeah.
mean? It's got to
Yeah.
be something that we're not privy to.
Yeah. It's just really weird.
That is weird.
It's funny because the next quote is saying that the real question is the trajectory of the bullet, but they think that they're going to be looking at entrance and exit wounds,
Hmm.
which never made any sense to me. When I
No.
was reading this, I was like, why the fuck does that even matter?
No.
So,
Yeah.
if you know why it matters,
Let us know.
please tell us because that that doesn't 2 plus 2 doesn't equate to me. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't equate how like that's a person from a motor vehicle shot at them. Or maybe oh my God. Maybe they didn't get attacked on the road. Maybe they went to wherever the fuck they were supposed to go to in the first place, and then they got out and they did like this whole showdown thing, and then they shot his wife, and then
Yeah. I was
maybe
thinking
that's why, because it could be like
maybe,
different angles.
yeah, maybe they think they got it, or maybe they think someone was in the car with
Yeah.
them.
Whoa.
It's
Yeah.
it's got to be something, yeah, because they're not just going to look at trajectory if they
Yeah.
believe that it was a shooting from another car. Like that doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. An investigator was cited by the Tennessean in an archival news piece as saying they thought the pair had driven into a trap, which I think we all kind of thought of anyways.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I wonder if, like you said, they think that they got out and she got shot, or like, or maybe someone was in the car, and with Buford getting shot as well, maybe he couldn't remember it all well, or
I don't know. It's crazy. It's sad. I
yeah,
hope he got revenge because that's
I do
dope
too.
as shit. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, good story.
Thanks. You too.
Thanks. I
You
have
want
a dad joke for you.
Oh, okay.
I only have one.
Oh, okay.
What do you call someone with no nose and no body?
Bob.
No, nobody knows.
But I'm bummed.
I don't get the nose part. Like, shouldn't it be nobody, no nose? But they just say nobody knows.
Yeah. Well, because Nose would be a better last name than Nobody. What cheese is the loneliest?
Swiss.
Provolone.
I
Uh, Nurse. Blood type. Dad. Red. Blood's red.
What?
The nurse was asking what the blood type was. The
Oh,
dude
and the dad said
responded with
red.
red instead
Oh,
of,
okay.
you know, you
Gotcha.
suck. Uh, I really need to fix my watch, but I never seem to have the time. Two more. I have the world's smartest hen. She counts her own eggs. She's one heck of a mathematician.
I like that mouth of a chicken. Oh.
I try to work out, but my favorite exercise is diddly squat.
That's my favorite as well.
Yeah.
Well, if you want more of us lovely ladies, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and Patreon.
And if you would like to rate and review us, you can do so on Apple Podcast and Spotify.
Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to bringing you two new stories next week.
Bye.
Bye.